What happens when a liberal journalist sets out to publicly humiliate Tiffany Trump, only to be quietly dismantled by her younger brother, Barron Trump? At a high-profile charity gala in Washington, D.C., what began as a smug ambush turned into an unforgettable moment of elegance, clarity, and truth. Barron, calm and composed, didn't need anger to defend his sister. Just facts, logic, and grace. The cameras were rolling. The world was watching. And what they witnessed left everyone stunned. Sometimes, the most powerful response to arrogance isn't anger. It's composure. And that night, in the dazzling heart of Washington, D.C.'s elite philanthropy gala, one young man would remind the world of exactly that. The event was in full swing. Inside the ballroom, chandeliers sparkled like frozen fireworks, casting soft golden light over a sea of designer tuxedos and flowing gowns. The air was filled with the clink of champagne glasses and the low hum of elegant small talk. It was the kind of night where appearances mattered more than substance, where reputations could be built, or shattered, with a single glance. Tiffany Trump stood near the center of the room, poised yet warm, dressed in a deep navy gown that shimmered subtly under the lights. She was speaking with donors, smiling, nodding, effortlessly maintaining grace under scrutiny. Just behind her, tall and reserved, stood her younger brother, Barron Trump. No cameras were on him. He didn't need them. His quiet presence carried weight. Barron had grown into a man far from the media's circus that once surrounded his family. He preferred silence over spectacle, and privacy over attention. But tonight, he was here to support his sister, and unknowingly, to become the focus of a very public ambush. Moving like a shadow through the crowd was Anderson Jones, a liberal journalist with a reputation for confrontational interviews and viral gotcha moments. He was known not for reporting truth, but for provoking reaction. And tonight, he had a target: Tiffany Trump. Jones had waited months for this opportunity. He had rehearsed his lines, coordinated his camera crew, and waited until Tiffany was surrounded, vulnerable yet visible. He approached with a smile that was anything but sincere, microphone already raised. "Miss Trump," he called out, his voice calculatedly loud. "May I ask you a quick question about your family's involvement in philanthropy?" Tiffany turned, ever polite. "Of course." Jones didn't waste time. "Many believe that your family's wealth gives them an unfair advantage in charity work, that it's more about image than impact. How do you respond to claims that the Trumps use philanthropy as a PR stunt rather than genuine service?" The surrounding conversations froze. Eyes turned. Phones subtly lifted. Tiffany blinked, caught off guard for half a second, but before she could speak, a calm voice emerged from her side. "With respect," said Barron, stepping forward, "would you ask that same question to anyone else here? Or does your concern only apply when the last name is Trump?" The crowd stirred. Jones chuckled, smug. "Well, your family is famous for putting business before social issues. It's hardly unfair to point that out, is it?" Barron didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. Instead, he pulled his phone from his pocket, tapped the screen a few times, and held it up for the people nearby to see. "Interesting," he said, showing an article from Jones's own media outlet. It detailed the Trump family's donations to children's hospitals and veteran programs. "I believe philanthropy should be measured by the impact it creates," Barron said plainly, "not the narrative it serves." The room was now silent. Jones shifted, just slightly. But Barron wasn't finished. And the real show was only beginning. The silence that followed Barron's calm reply was heavier than any shout could have been. The air, moments ago filled with champagne bubbles and light chatter, now buzzed with tension. People leaned in. Phones tilted subtly. Barron Trump had just shifted the entire mood of the gala. But Anderson Jones wasn't ready to back down. He adjusted his blazer, smirked at the audience, and fired back. "So you're saying your family's money doesn't influence how people perceive your charity work? That privilege has nothing to do with this?" Barron raised an eyebrow. "I'm saying perception is often shaped by bias, not facts." Jones pressed forward. "But isn't it true that your father's administration cut funding to key social programs while the family parades around donating millions? Isn't that just damage control?" This time, Tiffany stepped forward. Calm, elegant, but her voice had steel in it. "There's a difference between decisions made in office and personal contributions made to help communities. You're conflating the two for a narrative." The journalist pivoted, sensing a weak point. So, you're not denying the privilege? No, Barron replied plainly. But privilege doesn't disqualify purpose. It empowers responsibility. Gasps. Murmurs. Someone in the back whispered, that was sharp. Jones tried again. But don't you think the Trump name brings controversy wherever it goes? Doesn't that undermine any effort to do good? Barron inhaled, eyes steady. Controversy is a byproduct of public life. The real question is, do we use that spotlight to divide or to build? He turned slightly and tapped again on his phone. A new image appeared on the screen. This time, a chart showing Trump Foundation-backed scholarships for underserved students. He raised the phone again. This program alone has helped over 12,000 students access higher education, he said. That's not PR. That's impact. The murmurs turned into soft claps. Jones' confident expression began to crack. Still, he tried one last card. Well, some say your family uses wealth to silence critics. That you choose where to help and where to ignore. Barron nodded. Slowly. Every person chooses where they place their efforts. But we don't silence critics, we outlast them. And we invite them to look at the work, not just the headlines. He paused, then locked eyes with the journalist. Have you ever visited one of the clinics we helped build? Jones hesitated. Have you ever spoken with the veterans in the support programs we fund? Silence. No. Then maybe you're not interested in the truth. Maybe you're just interested in the fight. The crowd now fully surrounded them. What had started as a trap had become a masterclass in composed resistance. Jones's voice faltered. Well, this isn't about personal visits. Tiffany finally stepped in again, this time smiling. Respectful questions deserve real answers. But if you come looking for a scandal, you might leave with a lesson. The applause was louder now. People weren't just watching, they were moved. And Barron? He remained still. No arrogance, no celebration. Just presence. What had begun as a planned ambush had become something else entirely. A reminder that intelligence, respect, and truth can still cut through noise. As Jones faded into the crowd, mumbling, cornered, and defeated, the applause grew stronger, no longer polite, but genuine. Barron turned to his sister. She looked at him with quiet pride, a slight tear forming in her eye. You didn't just protect me, Tiffany whispered. You changed the entire narrative. Barron gave a modest shrug. Sometimes, the loudest voice doesn't win. The clearest one does. By the end of the evening, videos of the exchange had already gone viral. Clips of Barron's poised responses, calm tone, and fact-based arguments flooded social media. Hashtags like #Barron versus bias, #elegance trumped, and #silence with facts began trending globally. Even networks traditionally critical of the Trump family found themselves reluctantly praising the moment. Some called it a stunning reversal, others, a rare glimpse into character. Columnists who usually rolled their eyes at anything with the Trump name suddenly praised the young man's grace and restraint. But perhaps the most powerful moment came not from pundits, but from the people. Veterans groups shared posts thanking Barron for highlighting their programs. Education forums reposted data he'd shown. And even political opponents admitted, on air, that the journalist had crossed a line. Meanwhile, Tiffany received messages from former critics who had been moved by how composed she remained under fire, and how proud she looked beside her brother. The next day, a brief editorial appeared on the Progressive Boys website. It read, "We aimed to expose entitlement and found ourselves humbled by evidence and poise. Journalism demands better. We fell short." Anderson Jones was placed on temporary leave following the backlash. But the story was no longer about him. It was about how a moment meant to shame turned into a quiet triumph. How dignity, clarity, and truth won, not by shouting over others, but by standing firm with facts. As Barron and Tiffany exited the gala that night, the cameras still followed, but this time, they captured something unexpected. Not controversy. Not confrontation. But quiet strength. And in a world so hungry for outrage, that silence spoke louder than anything else could. In a world full of noise, sometimes calm confidence and truth speak the loudest. Barron Trump's quiet strength turned a planned ambush into a moment of clarity. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful moments where dignity prevails over drama. Because in the end, it's not volume that makes history. It's the values we choose to stand for.